Greetings ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Tiana here once again, and I am back for the likes of the Mexi Toys videos. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Metroid Fusion, or Metroid 4 for the Game Boy Advance. So, last time we have basically managed able to go back and forth in between not only the main deck, but also certain sectors, specifically from the likes of the forms of Sector 2 as we're currently onto right now, and potentially speaking, we also did manage able to come across into ourselves a bit of a power cut syndrome, and basically we come across into ourselves two of, without a doubt, one of the hardest boss fights in the game in my opinion. And because of that though, luckily, we did somehow manage to beat both of them on the first attempt, relatively speaking, and also we've managed able to come across into ourselves two more abilities for ourselves. That's what appears to be by the forms of, well, technically speaking, that also we come across into the power bombs that we can actually use them right now to able to actually uncover the forms of secret passageways or anything else to be more specific. And on top of that, we also managed able to finally learn the forms of the space jump alongside with the forms of the plasma beam. So today, for this video, is about the fact that we're about to continue things on during the forms of the majority of the game, but go ahead and explore the continuation portion of Sector 2. So hopefully we'll try to able to find ourselves with the forms of the recharge room, so just to ensure I don't want to die for the sake of time, especially concerning about the fact that, as you can tell, that we've almost low on health right now, so hopefully we'll try to able to find... Oh, okay, no need for recharge room, huh? Because, as you can see, we finally managed to find another energy tank right there, as you clearly see on screen. So, either way though, I guess I don't have to be worried about the forms of trying to find the recharge room anytime soon. So, thank you, energy tank, for able to give my emergency segment, or anything else like that. Even though it's been about 2 days ago since we've actually last played this game, because I think straight to the point about the fact that I believe both Mighty and Ray, they both managed to finally complete the Cliff World during the forms of in Donkey Kong Country Returns so far. So I think at this point in time, they've now moved on to probably is without doubt their favorite world in the game, which appears to be the Factory World. But I'm sure they'll explain more about it during at some point until tomorrow. And speaking of tomorrow though, Fast and Furious 10 is going to be releasing tomorrow on the big screen. So yeah, I'm really excited about this for the most part, especially concerning about the fact that, potentially speaking, that I believe that Shadow has already pre-booked the film ever since about a couple of days ago. So relatively speaking though, I think I should probably able to actually just rewatch the 9th film again, despite how controversial that particular film can be. But as a result of that kind of stuff though, is about the fact that I don't mind able to actually rewatch Fast and Furious 9 again, just to able to catch up on the forms of the plot details or anything else to be more specific before I dive right into Fast and Furious 10. So either way though, everything else will be pretty much accounted for the sake of time when it comes to likely catching up on, you know what I mean, the majority of the Fast and Furious films to able to watch and stuff like that. I mean, let's face it though, because I don't mind able to actually join in with Sonic and Shadow and Silver, because I'm pretty sure that Shadow was easily looking forward to it though, especially concerning about the fact that he loves crazy stunts and all that stuff, which I honestly have to admit it though right away. I honestly do enjoy the stunts here and there as well. Well, mind you about the fact no matter what though, I'm still pretty much accustomed to the forms of the James Bond stunts most of the time. But anyway, and as you can see, we come across into yet another power bomb tank, as you can see. But also, I get the strong sense of feeling there's another one in here. So relatively speaking, we got two power bomb tanks on the forms of the singular room. So yeah, that seems kind of legitimate, especially concerning about the fact that this room might be felt a bit tricky if you have a first time experiencing this room, if you really want able to go after the remaining, you know, power bombs, extensions and what have you. So either way, now supposedly enough though, I don't think there's any possibilities about the fact I don't think we will come across into the forms of another extensions for that point, especially because, well, at this point in time though, we basically all set when it comes to the forms of, well, it might be a bit tricky to explain because again, it's been 2 days ago since I've last played this, because still I'm pretty much busy playing The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom still, and I'm having a lot of fun with it though. But again, I don't want to mention any spoilers for the time being, just because I can assure you that game has been out for about 6 days now. So as a result of that kind of stuff though, I think there's absolutely no point for able to mention about the forms of spoiler territory anytime soon, until God knows until 2026 and beyond. Speaking of 2026 though, out of nowhere, there's actually a new project that's been going on from not just by the forms of, let's just say Take-Two, or to Take, or something relates to that, but also something tells me there is a new project that's going to be involved around a developer or a publisher by Game Freak. You know, the same folks behind Pokemon. And as a result, they're working on a new project called Project Bloom. And as a result, it always shows us the forms of that particular artwork, which I'll admit though right away, it looks pretty stunning with that particular, you know, the artwork itself. However, as far as I've realized about something is about the fact that, remember when I mentioned this earlier, that it will be something related to 2026? Well, as it turns out that the forms of that particular project coming up is not going to be releasing until about roughly 3 years time, until 2026. Gee, that must have been for an awfully long time. I think my guess is about the fact that I can assure you it might release on specifically the next generation of consoles, basically. And I highly doubt that it's not likely going to be on the Nintendo Switch for that game, especially because, well, exponentially speaking though, about the fact that it's almost to the point where, you know, the Nintendo Switch has been out for 6 years now, currently speaking, since we're still on 2023 after all. I mean, relatively speaking though, everything else will be pretty much expected at that point. So, anyway, so yeah, with the Plasma Beam, as you can tell, about the fact that we are now unbeatable for the sake of time, especially concerning about the fact that, well, obviously the Plasma Beam is actually pretty dang strong. So, either way, and as far as so far we already might as well able to address that one point, that obviously, like I mentioned this before, that just like the forms of how it does it in Super Metroid, that you can obviously manage to able to, you know, stack up the forms of all of those beam power-ups as far as I'm concerned. However, unlike the forms of Super Metroid, you can't turn on and off with those beam power-ups, so you can potentially try to able to get them all on, and potentially speaking, they're all stacked up. So because of that though, I really don't care, especially because concerning about the fact that the actual, the beam system in this game in particular, same applies to the forms of not only Super Metroid, but also with Metroid Zero Mission coming up in the future. That I really appreciate about the fact that, at least thankfully, unlike in Metroid 1 and Metroid 2 Return of Samus, that I don't have to go ahead and deal with the forms of that particular obnoxious backtracking at points, whatever you're trying to able to get, you know what I mean, your beam power-ups replaced by one form or another, because usually, relatively speaking, that's usually in Metroid 1 and Metroid 2, that basically both of those games manage to have the exact same thing in common. They only take one type of beam with you. So as a result of that kind of stuff though, at least I appreciate that in the future installments of the series, including the remake of the original Metroid, and potentially speaking also the same applies with the forms of Samus Returns, which is basically Metroid 2 Remake, for the Nintendo 3DS and stuff like that, that basically does about the fact that, well, we really don't have to worry about the forms of all that ridiculous backtracking nonsense. So, and I think for the most part that we basically covers everything in terms of Sector 2, because it seems about the fact that we have no idea we come back here after the events of that particular, you know what I mean, with that particular blackout or something like that. Well, potentially speaking though, because I think something tells me about the fact that, well, obviously we already bump into SAX since during the forms of that particular revisit from the likes of the forms of Sector 2. And also, we can now able to actually activate all those doors again because, well, everything's back to normal again. So either way though, all we need to do left now is of course some more stuff we need to able to handle with. So, yeah, potentially speaking though, everything else will be pretty much accounted for the sake of the forms of what we expect to do for this point. So, anyway, so a few things we want to explain for this point today, and that is that, well, today's date of course is the 18th of May today, in this case in 2023 today. So, yeah, like I mentioned this before, that I'm really looking forward to able to seeing Fast and Furious 10 on a big screen. In fact, let me know in the comments down below for the question of the day. Are you excited to able to see Fast and Furious 10? Because I am, especially that the trailer itself managed to give me some high expectations, especially concerning after that particular okay, mediocre film at best when it comes to the 9th movie. But as a result of that kind of stuff, though, I'm really hoping that the review scores might be potentially a bit higher than the likes of Fast and Furious 9 for the sake of the films of Fast and Furious 10 is going to bring us into. But again, much like the films of The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, no spoilers please, because obviously I just don't want to get things too spoiled heavy. So, although, unfortunately though, we've only got about 8 more days to go until that particular disappointing live-action remake is going to be on the horizon, and let me tell you, I'm still not going to see it. I know I said this before, but it bears repeating and grinding into dust, because as a result, it just feels a bit, you know, not the same as it used to be. So because of this though, and for what I've noticed about the fact that there are some changes that doesn't make that much sense, although potentially speaking though, that I'm curious to know about the fact that if the box office were bombed for that particular live-action adaptation of The Little Mermaid, but if it doesn't, then I'm sure it will not go away for this live-action adaptations anytime soon, because what's the point of able to actually see the live-action adaptations of those beloved Disney classics again? I mean, potentially speaking though, I honestly still prefer watching the originals any day, so anyway, now we've actually got ourselves the plasma beam functionality, so now we can able to continue proceedings for this point. Although we still need to be very cautious about the forms of Samus Aran X, because obviously that particular familiar faker of mine is actually gone super strong recently. So I wonder what sector are we going to go back to next? Oh, we're going back to Sector 5 again. So I guess that probably explains it, huh? Especially concerning about the fact that, well, we can probably do some more stuff at this point, especially about the fact that now we've got the plasma beam, as well as the forms of the space jump as well, so we can now able to actually experience certain areas that we haven't exactly access to yet. So, anywho, so, there's another thing I should probably explain about this as well, that I suppose that both Mighty and Ray have both completely forgot to mention about ever since in the last video, for the sake of the forms of Donkey Kong Country Returns, that basically it's been 10 years ago since that particular Nintendo Direct popped up during the forms of in 2013, which does manage to take place sometime in May, specifically May 17th in 2013. And looking back at it right now, after 10 years since when that particular Direct did came up, since during the forms of 17th of May, I was quite intrigued about the forms of certain announcements while looking back on it though. Like, I think the first game they did announce during that particular Direct will have to be by the forms of the next installment of the forms of Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games series, specifically Mario and Sonic at the Sochi 2014 Olympic Winter Games. Yeah, very long title still, but as a result of that kind of stuff though, I remember got excited about it. Although, mind you, I haven't exactly played that game for quite some time, especially because concerning about the fact that I always play the Olympic Winter Games during Christmas time, especially with both Vancouver 2010 and Sochi 2014 at the same time, because they are both almost entirely related to Christmas to me. Because, you know, Winter Games more likely represented with snow and such, but either way, I'm usually potentially I was able to say that right now, so oh jeez. Looks like everything else is different around here now, especially that every single glass portions is now scattered, so that can be only be one thing that we can now able to actually experience, to able to actually go ahead and continue proceedings for the likes of Sector 5, because I think something tells me that someone mentioned Nightmare could be responsible for it. So either way though, or responsible for all that stuff, that's what I meant to say. But either way though, I apologize for my commentary gets a bit slightly iffy at this point today because, well, after I'm done with this particular recording session, I'm also able to quickly hit back onto The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom again, although potentially speaking though, that might be seems the case. So, there's another bomb, a power bomb tank right there, and to get to it, you need to once again utilize the forms of not only speed booster, but also with the shine spark as well, if you time your jumps correctly. So either way, and we still haven't got actually access to the forms of red doors yet, but something tells me we will come across into new areas that we haven't exactly explored yet, for as an alternative route to take. So either way, and Yeah, I do remember that time. I was very excited about the forms of Mario and Sonic at the Sochi 2014 Olympic Winter Games first announced. That I almost first thought that looking back in it though, I almost assumed about the fact that it's going to be out on the Wii U and 3DS, but as it turns out, it's a Wii U exclusive title, as opposed to the forms of both the usual console and handheld equivalents. But either way though, gee, no wonder why that the 3DS never actually got an Olympic Winter Games during that time. Although all it got is just basically, oh god, whatever happened to the forms of the data room right there? It's almost entirely wiped out. I suppose it doesn't really matter because we've already got the actual, the thing itself to begin with. Oh, what do we have here? We can actually traverse into different sectors at any point, so that's actually quite cool. Although, mind you, we might as well able to actually just to come back for it later, because I think something tells me we need to solve these little specific parts first. And, don't you that gosh darn space pirates! Although, despite the fact that they usually become like ex-parasites for the sake of time, so... Anyway, so I think there might be something is usually up here though, but I think something tells me I do need to... Does power bombs? Oh, yes of course. So we'll activate those doors here, or potentially speaking just do this. And sure enough, we'll activate another one, and from here we'll get another power bomb tank. So, seems that we're getting quite close when it comes to collecting all sorts of stuff. So as a result of that kind of stuff though, yeah, we're getting very close when it comes to collecting everything. So, anyways, let's go and Wolf Ball Bomb right here. So just in case that we'll be back on track for the sake of time. So either way though, let's just go and continue proceedings for this point. And for this point and onwards, we can able to actually head back to Sector 3 at any point. So either way, I think something tells me there might be something is usually up there, like another power bomb tank. So pretty generous, huh? Anyway, I do remember also looking back during the informs of that particular Nintendo Direct, as I mentioned earlier, out of nowhere, that I was very excited and curious to see what the next Sonic game was going to be like, which later turns out to be Sonic Lost World for the Wii U and 3DS, being the forms of the Nintendo exclusive title as far as this is concerned. And on top of all these defenses though, about the fact no matter what though, it's been almost 10 years ago since when Sonic Lost World has officially announced, during the forms of not only on the Wii U, but also on the 3DS as well. Like, geez, 10 years ago, huh? Especially I was really looking forward to it back in the day, even though despite the forms of there are some controversial opinions out there. But regardless of such though, I honestly don't mind about it too much, I guess, despite the 3DS version is a bit, you know, long and drawn out compared to the forms of how it does it on the Wii U version in my opinion, but I might be biased when it comes to preferring, like, you know, the superior console version a lot more, well, despite it might be lacking in consistency at points, so... Oh jeez, we're gonna be walking underwater, huh? Well, despite the fact that we're still walking quite slow, for the most part, at least potentially we might able to actually get that particular familiar suit upgrade as soon as we're able to actually take on, let's just say, the next boss in the game. But either way though, time will tell at this point, especially because concerning about the fact that we've only just got started with this for the most part, so... Anywho though, also, I do remember that time as well, that whenever they first announced there was the Sega Game Gear stuff coming onto the forms of the Nintendo 3DS, despite the fact that you can no longer get those stuff anymore every nowadays because, you know, the eShop is now dead for the likes of both the Wii U and 3DS. But as far as I'm aware, that whenever I heard about the forms of Game Gear stuff coming to the Nintendo 3DS, I was quite pleasantly surprised about. Especially, to make matters even better, is that almost every single Sonic Game Gear titles was actually on there, well, apart from one or two exceptions, specifically on the Western versions, specifically both Tails Sky Patrol and the first Sonic Drift, because both of those games are Japanese exclusive. And as a result, that's, relatively speaking, I didn't usually buy anything related to the Sega Game Gear stuff for the likes of the Nintendo 3DS owners, as far as I'm aware, because obviously I've already got all of these Game Gear Sonic titles from not only from the likes of Sonic Mega Collection Plus, but also with Sonic Gems Collection and also Sonic Adventure DX itself. And every now and then you can now able to actually get those games on the likes of Sonic Origins Plus, for the likes of the forms of the physical run, or with DLC stuff as well. So either way, and something tells me there's another power bomb tank right up there. So either way, and also I remember that time as well, they firstly announced there was going to be the Game Boy Color games, specifically The Legend of Zelda Oracle of Seasons and Ages, coming on the Nintendo 3DS Virtual Console re-releases. But despite the fact I haven't exactly got those games in day one on the Virtual Console re-release version of those two games combined, it wasn't until, I would say, in 2017 I finally managed able to experience them both, and they basically play pretty much exactly like Link's Awakening DX for the Game Boy Color, or the original Game Boy to be more specific. So yeah, you probably get the gist of it though, especially because concerning about the fact that while I haven't exactly fully completed both Oracle of Seasons and Ages because of the forms of the linked game system, with like combine those things into one, I guess. Well, mind you, it's been a very long while since I actually have last played the forms of those two games combined on the Game Boy Color, on the 3DS Virtual Console re-release version potentially. So either way, and because obviously, as I said before, I'm still busy playing Tears of the Kingdom, so either way, just to get some lot of play times to be involved, and potentially speaking with other stuff you know as well. So either way, let's just go ahead and, can you just stop shooting some projectiles at me, please? Thank you. Because, obviously, I just want to get the actual thing moving. So, either way, so I think something tells me there's another energy tank right there, and immediately grab the ledge, so just in case you don't miss this out, although potentially you can try again if you wanted to. And something tells me we now ended up in this particular room. Oh my lord. Oh my lord, what is this thing? I guess this is Nightmare, according to what someone did actually say to me something during the forms in the navigation room. And this is without doubt is pretty tricky as a boss fight, especially because all you have to do in this first phase here is that you need to be able to aim at its bottom part, and once you're done with the first phase, then something interestingly will happen. Especially as you can tell from its face, that something tells me something disturbing will happen. Well, potentially speaking, if we somehow get into the second phase of the fight. Which, unfortunately though, my computer keeps lagging again. And as a result of that kind of stuff though, I still may need to try— oh my god, that face looks creepy! Especially concerning about the fact that, well, I totally get this is a Metroid game after all, but hey, at least it needs to be something more likely, have some intimidating moments here and there, and something tells me I'm about to get wrecked at one point, especially because, well, let's just say, just like the previous two bosses, sometimes that the actual boss patterns might be a bit difficult to dodge at points. But either way, as usual, just use the ice missiles at him, and then if you shoot enough at him for about quite a few times, geez, it's almost like a deformed version of Twilight Sparkle or something, since the main six, or the mean six, uncensored version of that particular leaked episode or something. In fact, mind you, that particular episode has been out for about almost 5 years or so. So, anyway, once you're able to keep shooting at the forms of the ice missiles at him for about a few times, and chances are, I think he's done, right? Well, straight to the point, much like any other bosses, there's still a little shell thing we need to take out before we, get ourselves the most useful suit in the game. So either way, because exponentially that we walked incredibly slowly during the forms of the underwater parts. So anyway, so let's just go ahead and deal with this one last hit, and there we go. So from here, we now got ourselves the gravity suit, which this allows you to able to move freely in underwater. So that's more like it. Now I can assure you, it also boosts up our defense as well. So either way though, yeah, that seriously rocks. Especially concerning now we can able to do some more stuff in underwater, and maybe potentially we can able to hit back to Sector 4, because now we can able to actually walk underwater as you can see on screen. So pretty awesome at the same time, especially concerning about the fact that, again, we can now do more stuff. So anyway, and also I do remember that time as well, at least back in the forms of in 2013 anyway, that I remember got excited about the forms of New Super Luigi U for not only for its DLC, but also, well, potentially with the physical runs as well, like physical copies and stuff like that. Even though despite the fact that I didn't exactly got the physical version back in the day, it wasn't until during New Forms of It 2020 that I've somehow managed to finally got the physical copy of the game, as you probably already know, on my Wii U game update collection as far as this is concerned. And also I do remember that time they mentioned something more details about the wonderful 101, and on top of that with Pikmin 3 on the Wii U, and potentially speaking showing us some more gameplay footage of that game as well. And even potentially speaking though, I think that's as far as I can think about in terms of looking back on the forms of the 17th of May, 2013's Nintendo Direct, which it is fine for what it is while looking back. I mean, potentially speaking of, I think that's as far as I can usually say about the forms in that particular looking back on certain things, as you probably already expect. So, and also I just realized about something as well, that one thing I honestly forgot to mention about during the course of this particular Let's Play so far, that exponentially, the English version of Pokemon Heroes the movie, you know, involves around Latios and Latias, and that obviously takes place in the forms of in Italy, at least if I was assuming so anyway, with all that canals and all that stuff. Basically though, it's about the fact that that film has been 20 years old, at least specifically the English version, because I do know for one thing that the Japanese version did came out in 2002, so relatively speaking, though, everything else will be pretty much expected when it comes to, you know, massive differences between the English versions of the actual releases than the forms of the Japanese release, or did I mention that? Although I get a bit mixed up. So either way, because as you can tell, I'm going to be trying to concentrate on getting that particular energy tank right up there, especially because once again it involves around with those particular crumbling blocks if you managed able to stand on one of them. But at least potentially I still managed able to pull this off. So either way, now we can able to walk underwater, as I mentioned this before, so this meaning about the fact that we can now able to actually, you know, do some more stuff here and there, and exponentially we can able to... Oh, wait a minute, we need to able to use the speed booster on this point, especially because I think something tells me with that particular wall is actually blocking away. So if we get enough breathing room, while at the same time trying to able to get rid of those space pirates, as you can definitely see, and on top of all that stuff though, is about the fact that, well, there was also another film that I suppose that both Mighty and Ray have also both forgot to mention about during the course of the Donkey Kong Country Returns Let's Play, that basically the Matrix Reloaded has officially now become 20 years old as well. And same applies with the forms of this upcoming, or potentially speaking though, I keep thinking about the forms of this year in particular that we're into right now, which is 2023. But then again though, I apologize for my commentary is a bit iffy at points, because, well, again, as I mentioned this before, that both Mighty and Ray have already mentioned about a lot of stuff, thanks to the forms of Donkey Kong Country Returns Let's Play. So either way, speaking of Donkey Kong Country Returns though, on the other hand, specifically the 3DS version of the game, eventually by that time, until 6 days time, until the 24th of May, the 3DS version will be eventually become 10 years old during that time, which, potentially speaking though, about the fact that, well, it might be a perfect opportunity that both Mighty and Ray will both mention more about it until whenever they go back onto Donkey Kong Country Returns during at some point in the next couple of days and beyond, because as far as I'm aware, they are almost finishing up with the forms of that particular game actually, So as you can tell, we're now immediately back onto the forms of Sector 4, as you can clearly see on screen. And because of that though, as you can tell, we can now walk underwater. So again, we can now able to explore some more areas here and there. So yeah, that's as far as I can usually think about this for the sake of time. Especially because, you know, we've pretty much almost become unstoppable at this point. Well, potentially speaking though, we've still got a whole lot of upgrades to go. Especially concerning about the fact that we still are missing quite a few stuff here and there, including buddy forms of the remaining of those not only missile tank expansions, but also with the more power bomb extensions as well, and even energy tanks as well, because I'm pretty sure we've only got about, I would say, 6 energy tanks left. Although I haven't exactly paid attention to the forms of the top left corner of my energy at the moment, as far as you can definitely tell at this point, but either way, we're getting very close, especially noticeable because concerning about the fact that we breezily went for those specific sections for quite a bit. So, anyway, let's save our game, so just in case we know exactly what to do here. And potentially speaking for that point, is that I think we've only got about 12 more days to go until eventually Finding Nemo is going to be turning to 20 years old until by the end of May. So as a result, I'm very curious to able to look back on the film, especially because I think we'll let some toy sales were able to mention more about it until presumably if they'll decide to work on the next Let's Play after finishing the films of not only Metroid Fusion, which it might potentially will be happening, until specifically by the end of this month, potentially, if depending on time, and potentially speaking though with Donkey Kong Country Returns and stuff like that. So, although then again though, I was expecting that both Mighty and Ray were able to show us some 3DS version content as far as this is concerned, but they're also able to do a separate Let's Play of it, especially concerning it does have some slight significant changes. Well, nothing major, but either way though, I'm sure they both have already explained about this a lot, so... And I get the strong sense of feeling about the fact that since we are now onto the underwater segment on the films within the Sector 4, we might come across into ourselves the final security hatch, specifically level 4 variation of that particular security door hatch activated. At least I'm assuming so anyway. Well, mind you about the fact that it's been quite some time since we've actually last come across into one of those security door hatches being activated since level 3 during the films have been, let's just say, in Sector 5 and anything else like this. So, yeah, that might actually bring us something to the table, at least as far as content goes or anything else like that. So, but again, there's not much else I can say. It's just about the fact the matter is though, it's just, well, I'm just really looking forward to able to actually, like, well, eventually we're most able to finish up this game, almost, potentially speaking, until, well, by the end of the month, which, kind of thinking about it, I was expecting to be a little bit lengthier than that, but as it turns out that we actually breezily went for those segments for a much more of a quicker pace, as far as I mentioned this before, so... Anyway, so let's pop in down here, so just in case we're able to double check on one of those segments we can actually go into. So either way, I will admit though right away is that this particular segment of Sector 4, it does kind of reminds me of almost entirely related to the forms of, even though it's a bit tricky to explain, because I know for a fact I was being busy playing The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom recently, which I still managed to do, even to this day, especially because, well, that was the next Zelda game I was able to try to complete. Well, in terms of the storytelling, but I wasn't exactly sure about 100%ing the game just yet, especially concerning there's a lot of stuff to do in that game, similar to the forms of Breath of the Wild. So gee, no wonder why that Tears of the Kingdom is not going to be on the forms of the Wii U version as well. So yeah, I just have no idea what I usually explain about this particular topic in mind, especially because hopefully until the next video, and during at some point on next Tuesday and onwards, then I'm also able to try and fix that stupid lag again, which it'll continue that tradition, trust me guys, which I know is a bit of a pain, and on top of that, we've already on about that for a couple of times already, for the sake of the forms of Metroid Fusion Let's Play itself. So either way, now we're finally able to activate all of the red door hatches, so that means we can now able to explore everything else for this point right now, apart from a couple of exceptions though, mind you, because we still need able to actually access to the last two abilities as far as I'm concerned. So with that being said, we're going to end things up this point right here. So join me next time for more of Let's Play of Metroid Fusion. Is that we're going to be continuing exploring for the forms of Sector 4 in the underwater portion of that particular sector, and maybe do some other stuff as well. So I'll see you guys on next Tuesday. Later, fellas.